The same system is bringing some heavy rain and winds. Coastal areas of Washington and Oregon will continue to be pounded today. Flooding is possible in both of those states. Yesterday, part of Washington got as much as 73 millimeters of rainfall. Moving back to Canada now, as we mentioned earlier, this same system is also affecting provinces to the east of BC. A heavy snowfall warning is also in effect for southwestern Alberta, including Calgary, Banff, and the Rocky Mountain House region. In fact, Rocky Mountain is forecast to get 15 to 20 centimeters by this evening for you. Would you believe that's coming up in a few mere days? Now, in the meantime, this afternoon, this picture of weather is actually representative of what's going to be happening at about 7 p.m. today Eastern Time. And that means a lot of snow right across the southern prairies, actually from BC into northwestern Ontario, with that prairie clipper heading eastward. Now that is going to bring a lot of snow accumulations in areas like the foothills of Alberta as well as into northwestern Ontario. We even have some warnings in effect, but also in between it's going to bring some blowing and drifting snow, very low visibility there. In the east, some flakes certainly clearing out in Newfoundland, or clear remaining so in Newfoundland, but some stormy conditions into New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. A mixed bag of precip there. Now Tuesday that clears out, but things still cloudy because of an approaching system. Newfoundland not looking too bad, in fact, clearing out as the day progresses. But into areas like the Nickel Belt and into Quebec, into Chibougamau and Abitibi regions, we could see some serious accumulations happening right down through to southern Ontario, where a few centimeters are indeed possible. Now things really clearing out throughout the prairies on Tuesday, although under that Arctic ridge of high pressure, things very chilly, still well below seasonal. And another system hitting the BC coast as well as affecting the foothills. And what's going to happen is on Wednesday, that is going to track southward, bringing the snow with it. So whatever happened on Tuesday, clearing out a little bit Wednesday, a bit of a break. Some lake effect flurries into southern Ontario, and that low affecting Labrador and most of Newfoundland as well as northern portions of the Maritimes. Thursday that's clearing out, but windy, and we could still see some flakes along this trough. Some lake effect stuff into southern Ontario. Frigid in the prairies, and that low pressure system still affecting southern BC and Alberta.
Canada's garden. PEI is surrounded by spectacular beaches and dotted with beautiful villages. Spring here is on the cool side. Summers are pleasantly mild and breezy, with average daytime high, some of the most variable weather in the country.
Good morning, Canada, on this holiday Monday morning. Lots of active weather to tell you about from coast to coast, as a matter of fact. The bulk of the activity is in BC and Alberta, but as well in between there and northwestern Ontario, we're still talking about blowing snow, blizzard conditions. We've got wind, we've got rain. Hang around. Well, stick around. We'll have more shortly. Back to the morning report. I have your continental current conditions right now. Maybe you do want to head south of the border. Maybe you have relatives down there. Okay. You might want to avoid areas like Montana and North Dakota. Washington and Oregon, as a matter of fact, with these rains, we could get flood conditions, so not ideal places to visit. As you can see, right throughout the northern U.S. plains, a little bit of activity in the last few hours, and right along the eastern side, as a matter of fact, some patchy snow into the American northeast. Now, north of the border, things aren't much better. As a matter of fact, worse in some areas. You can see in southern Saskatchewan here how this activity is creeping up. And in extreme southern portions of Saskatchewan, we actually have blizzard warnings right now, if you didn't think we had enough warnings to tell you about. And I will tell you about what's happening north of the border if I can have my trusty, handy-dandy isobar map. There it is. Look at that. I have so much power here. Now in the west, you can see these isobars very tightly wrapped together. That means very windy conditions, and that's definitely making for some wind warnings. Now it looks clear in the center, especially into northwestern Ontario. One would think that's the only area with no activity today, and one would be wrong, because what's happening is, you've heard of a prairie clipper before. Well, this is actually more a Montana clipper, because the activity that's happening in Montana right now is going to quickly clip across, if you will, into northwestern Ontario, making for a heavy snowfall warning warning into northwestern Ontario, into the Wawa Superior East region later on today and into tonight. Now, into the rest of Ontario, not too bad, and a warm sector as a matter of fact, and so areas like Toronto seeing well above seasonal temps, quite mild at about 5. Ottawa -1, still above seasonal. And in the east, we're going to see some stormy-like conditions, first in New Brunswick and then into Nova Scotia. And you can see all of the cloud cover associated with that. Newfoundland, not seeing too much of that. That will be later on and into Tuesday, into tomorrow. Southern Ontario, as I mentioned, looking nice and clear, not too bad at all. Some low-lying cloud, but it's into northwestern Ontario that we have a heavy snowfall warning in effect for Superior North and Wawa Superior East. 4 to 8 centimeters of snow is expected by this evening, and then a further 10 to 20 centimeters into the overnight. That will ease up tomorrow morning. But if you're heading out on highways 11 or 17, you might want to think twice. It's going to be very bad conditions to drive as well. Zero visibility in some areas and not much greater than that in others, right throughout the southern prairies, with blowing and drifting snow associated with that same low pressure system. But it's really out west in British Columbia and Alberta that we're talking about the snow. Let's start with BC and actually Alberta and Saskatchewan, and we'll talk about the heavy snowfall warning over the foothills. As you can see, not looking too great right now. We've been seeing some snow into areas like Calgary. The snowfall warning includes Calgary, Kananaskis, Banff, Lethbridge, Crow's Nest, and Pincher Creek. 10 to 15 centimeters expected there. And into southern Saskatchewan, as I mentioned, certainly blizzard warning for Swift Current, Moose Jaw, and Assiniboia. Now 5 to 10 centimeters, as well as some brisk northeasterly winds, going to make for blizzard conditions. Visibility again reduced to next to nothing. Now out west into BC, this heavy snowfall warning we've begun to exclude some areas, but as you can see, it encompasses much of the southern interior of BC. We also have a snowfall warning for Whistler, another 10 to 15 centimeters expected by the end of the day. Some of that could be mixed with rain, but snow is snow in the west, isn't it? We also have wind warnings, as you can see, right along the coastal regions, although it has been dropped for some regions like Greater Vancouver and the Central Coast coastal sections. As well, an Arctic outflow warning in north coastal inland regions, with the wind chill making things feel very chilly indeed. Now here is your full traveler's forecast.
Only bad news. Well, so far this is kind of a good news story. We can use a little bit of hope in our life that you can start again, and in fact, as things have turned out, as I say in the book, I have never been happier. I mean, I love what I do.
Okay, so let's look at the bad news aspect.
Okay.
You get fired.
Yeah.
Did you see it coming? Did you know it was coming?
No, I had this wonderful